we're talking about the Kings. And well, we kind of related the Kings to the Denver Nuggets and how the Denver Nuggets are, a great model to follow, which feels funny because you have Michael Malone there. And obviously Michael Malone will, part of Michael Malone's story will always be the Sacramento Kings. Like it's unavoidable, even as he potentially wins championships. Like the Sacramento Kings will still, be a part of Michael Malone's story. And it's funny how these two can be intertwined together because it is a great model to follow. And, we started our last conversation talking about Calvin Booth and the job that he has done as the Denver Nuggets general manager of finding the right pieces, and how Monty McNair is tasked with the same duty. Calvin Booth found the right pieces for Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. And now Monty McNair has to do the same thing with De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. And my question for you is, and I know this is going to take us in a lot of different directions, but is the most likely place for immediate improvement for Sacramento through free agency or through a trade?
I mean, it's tough because they've never been able to get a free agent before.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because we saw both last year, right? Yeah. Kevin Huerter came over in a trade.
Yeah.
Malik Monk, who you probably wouldn't put as like a tier 1 free agent, but they went out and signed him. And whether, we tier these free agents in 1, 2, or 3, wherever you wanted to put Malik Monk was fine. The return was a tier 1 return for Sacramento.
Yeah.
And that's the that's the unique job of a general manager, finding someone, especially in Sacramento in tier 2 or tier 3 or whatever, and getting a tier 1 return.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a key. And that's what you call like finding the perfect fit, right? And I think that's what Malik was. Malik is the perfect fit in Sacramento. You find a player who's at the right age, who's at the right maturity finally, who is found a home with, a close friend. Like all of these things like played into why Malik Monk makes so much sense for the Kings. But you got to keep doing it. And like I'm super cautious about this because I've sat in a conference room while an assistant general manager, not a current assistant general manager, but an assistant general manager for the Sacramento Kings, has tried to convince me and other reporters in the room that the Kings are going to be able to go out and sign an A-list free agent. We're heading towards this. We're on a path where we're going to build the team up to this specific level, and then players are going to want to come here, and we're going to be able to be the ones that go get those players. And you just look at them like, okay, look, do you understand that Vlade Divac is literally the best free agent signing the Kings have ever had still? And after him, it might be Rashawn Holmes or Malik Monk.
Might be Malik, yeah.
I mean, that's where we're at. I mean, yeah. that's like and we're not talking about a small sample size. We're talking about 38 years or whatever it is at this point. Like it's just not a small sample size. So it's really, really difficult for Sacramento to be a player in the free agent market. Now, does the style of play, does all that matter? Sure it does. But you got to be able to do something that's never happened before. And it's kind of like making the playoffs for the first time. You've got to be able to break through and get someone to sign here that you wouldn't typically think would sign here. I think they got really close when George Hill signed, because George Hill on paper was he's probably the best free agent signing ever on paper, but it never worked out at all functionally. So how do you go get that guy? And I don't think the Kings necessarily have to find an A-list free agent. That could certainly put you over the top, or making a trade. So I would still say that making a trade is the easiest way for the Kings to improve. They can, they have the 24th pick in the draft. You could find a game changer, but a game changer that's more like 2 years down the road that can help out. You can also miss, and that guy could never play in the league hardly at all. I mean, you could find another Malachi Richardson or Skal Labissiere or Yorgos Papagiannis. I mean, There's plenty of
James
guys
in here talking dirty on
a Justin Jackson, Harry Giles. Like, we could keep talking. There's so many times where you missed from picks 10 until picks whatever. But I think trade is still the way. And that's where, someone brought up earlier in the chatty house, can you clear up your free agent? I mean, your first round picks. Yeah, I mean, Atlanta pretty much understands that they're going to get the Sacramento Kings 2024 first round pick. Like, this team looks like a playoff team for next season, whether that's the 24th pick or whether it's the 18th pick, whatever it might be. You could probably make a call to Atlanta and swing that deal. And so then you would have access to your 26, 28, and I think 2030 first round picks now, because we'll switch calendar year and you'll be able to move those picks. So I'd say, if I'm Monty McNair, you've built a winner. There's another piece that's missing that you have to go find. And Sasha Vezenkov is a perfectly fine free agent, European free agent signing. But we're talking, 6, 7, 8, and 9 in your rotation, maybe 10 in your rotation. We're not talking 1 through 5. And this team still needs that 1 through 5 guy, especially if Harrison Barnes is no longer with this team. And even if you bring Harrison back, you still have the lack of length and athleticism. And I think it brings us to a longer discussion about, like, what do you do with some of the pieces you already have? Like, can Kevin Huerter play some small forward? He's 6'7". And can you find something different? Well, he should be able to. Yeah. And I actually, like, speed wise, I feel like he's better fit for that position. So, like, even I thought Buddy Hield was always defensively, he was much better at the 3 than he was at the 4. I mean, at the 2. And I think Kevin Huerter, we might get to that point too, where just lateral quickness wise, like, you might not be strong enough and you might not have the length that you need, but lateral quickness might be okay at that position. And I think that means more than some of the other intangibles when it comes to defense. And so I don't know, like, they've got to figure out some things, because I even, like, look at, if you do like a lineup here on the wall of their 4 guards with Davion and De'Aaron and Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter, they don't fit together. The 4 of them don't fit together. You need a bigger defensive minded guard, and you need something slightly different in that backcourt. You got your star, you've got your 6-man, you've got your sharpshooter, and you've got your defensive specialist. But again, they come in 2 similar packages or 2 different of packages, if you don't understand what I'm saying. So, like, again, I like the idea of De'Aaron Fox and Kevin Huerter. I don't necessarily like the idea of having a 6-foot guard and a 6'3" guard as a lightweight 6'3" and Malik Monk as your 2 reserves. Like, defensively, it's really tough to compete. And so I think that there are tweaks that have to be made still, even within the rotation that we think that is their rotation.
There's a lot more I want to talk about with that. But James, buckle up, because Mitch is on the phone, 916-909-1320. Mitch, what's happening, man?
How's it going, guys? Thanks for taking my call.
You got it, Mitch.
That was great seeing the Lakers go like that. And LeBron, saying he was a guy, he played all 40 minutes. He had the best game, almost another triple-double. They got to build around that team. I mean, Davis got to put up more. I'm already hearing about trades, and no way he's going to retire.
I don't think so
either. 2 more years. He's going to wait for Bronny. And then he has a 15-year-old I was just reading about. Bryce, he's 6'6". I don't know what they feed him. I wish I had gotten hold of that recipe. Right, Damon would be a little taller. He's 6'6" already. Boy, LeBron certainly has steered his kids towards just basketball. I mean, they got football bodies, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron's always been built like a football player, and Bryce looks to be no exception. He looks to be built just like his dad. Yeah,
16 years old, 15 years old. All Kings got to do. I wish Michael Porter was a free agent, because I'd love to have him. We did draft his brother, but I think he's playing over in Europe. But his brother's not as good, I guess. Best player available, and sign a backup center or a wing, right? Those are our 2 biggest needs.
Mitch, you're a little reserved today. Is everything okay?
I'm on vacation.
Oh, okay. All right. It's vacation, Mitch. Okay, Mitch. I was
my grandson's knocking me out. I don't know how my wife does it. I only had it part-time today, and he wants to walk. He's getting there. He's going to be walking before his first birthday. I'm taking bets. He wants July 11th. He'd be one.
There you go. We appreciate you, Mitch. Have a great rest of your vacation. Normally, Mitch, sometimes Mitch is all over the place.
Be a little crazy.
I'm sorry. Help me out with Michael Porter's brother,
Jonte Murray. The Kings did not draft him.
Okay.
Memphis drafted him,
Okay.
and he didn't make it in the league. I mean, he's still only 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Mitch. We appreciate you as always. Mitch always has ideas on. See, Mitch is in New Jersey, but he's a Kings fan. It's just how it is.
That makes sense. The accent certainly.
Yeah, that'll get you. Sometimes he's running from dogs when he's on the phone with. It's a whole process. But we love Mitch for sure. You were focused on the guards there for a minute, and my question specifically was trade and free agency. Internally, though, is the most room for growth with Keegan Murray?
Yes. Like for sure, as far as like what we're looking at with a player, like individually, I think the biggest area for growth is to stay together, to keep a core together and let them like build chemistry together. But like individually, Keegan Murray is the guy. And the reason I say that too is like we've talked about this a little bit, but again, the Kings think that both the Murray brothers, like they have young bodies, like they haven't, they're late bloomers. And so you're at a point with Keegan where you can go one of two ways. He's not going to look like what he looks like today, next year or the year after. Like he's just not. He is either going to slim down a little bit and sort of be more cut, and they're going to work on lateral quickness and agility and all that stuff, or they're going to bulk him up. And I'm not saying like bulk him up where he's running around out there looking like Michael Cage or something, but like there's a point where you can actually, see that he would be more defined, that he's going to be like just in better shape.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's sort of what they have to decide with him. Is he a 3 that plays 4 or 4 that plays 3 type deal? If he can stick it to 3, I think it changes everything for the Kings. Like really it does. It makes it a lot easier for the Kings to continue this build. If he can't stick it to 3 and he's a 4, that's not a horrible thing. It's just that, you start running into other players that you can get on your roster that can help you, that play that position.
So if Keegan has the most room for growth internally within this team, who's second?
Yeah, that's a funny question. I mean, because I'm going to say it's either De'Aaron Fox or it's Malik Monk.
Okay.
Because I don't think that there's another player.
Wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah, because, and this isn't like, it's not a slight on Davion. That's what people don't like. Davion for me has always been, he's a tough fit for this team. Just like the way that he plays the game, his skill set can be optimized in other systems better than it can in Sacramento. I've always thought that. He's not a catch and shoot shooter. He should be, because he played with like 2 other point guards at Baylor. It's like him and Jared Butler, like running a dual point guard, and they had another point guard as well. Like there should have been a point where he could like really grasp the concept and be better off ball. And he shot the ball really well from 3 as a senior at Baylor, but that hasn't translated to the NBA at all. And so there's a lot of times where if he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he looks a little bit lost on offense, and he's gotten better about it. And it's on both ends of the ball, like on the defensive end too. He's a guy that if he isn't defending the guy with the ball, can get lost in rotations. And so they've worked really hard. And that's the piece that I keep saying I'm going to write about Davion, is the work that he's done with Doug Christie. The problem that Doug has is that it doesn't matter what he does with Davion. There's no way for him to make him 6'6" or 6'7" like Doug is, with a 6'10" wingspan. Like there's no way to make Davion grow. And Davion does everything in his power to be like in the best physical condition that you can possibly imagine. He's a player who's barely missed any games in his career and probably won't miss a bunch of games in his career. But because he's always going to be De'Aaron Fox's backup in Sacramento, I just look at him as like a piece that may fit better somewhere else, and that you could find a guy who can play 15 to 18 minutes a game, that's long and rangy and provides something different than what Davion does. Not a true ball handler, more of like a Bruce Brown or a Torrey Craig, or one of these guys that really is more 3-and-D than he is, a pure distributor, because you do have these other mechanisms in place, like Malik Monk's ability to take over the point guard position with the second team, and then Domantas Sabonis's ability to direct traffic as sort of the center of the universe big. So I just think that there are other players that fit better. And this is, again, I don't think Davion's a bust at all. I think he's a really solid NBA player. I also think he's a heart and soul guy. He's a guy who, puts in all of the work. But sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes it's just not the right player for the right team.
So is it unfair for Kings fans, anyone, to like expect something different from Davion?
Yeah, that's what I think.
This is who, like what we've seen, this is who Davion is.
He can be better within the role, but I think it's hard because in his rookie season, he averages 12 points a game. In his sophomore season, he averages 6. Like, can he be in the middle? Can he be like an 8 or 9 point per game guy? Sure. But you're still going to run into limitations with him, in my opinion. And that's just because you don't have like the necessary minutes for him to like develop and really grow and build find a rhythm in every single game. It's hard, especially the way that they put him in and out of games last year, where they would go, for a couple of minutes and then pull him. They would like pull Fox at the 6-minute mark. Davion would come in for 3 minutes. They pull Sabonis at the 9-minute mark and pull Davion with him and put Fox back in. And then Davion would start the second. Like this whole weird rotation thing. I got why they were doing it, but the guy who really lost in that whole situation was Davion, and he was being a good teammate and he didn't complain about it, but it's hard. Like, I talked to him so many times this season about finding a niche, and I don't think he was ever able to truly find his niche. So, and again, like a guy like Kyle Lowry, he backed up point guards in Houston for a long time before he got his shot. And then next thing you know, he became an all-star. So yeah, I just think that, there is potential for him to be way more than what he is. But is there ever going to be a time where he's playing? I thought he'd played 24 to 25 minutes this last year. No. I mean, he was lucky to get 18. And as we got deeper in the season, it got less.